welcome to a new episode of the Perry Thomas Show. I'm your host and voice of Fighting Tiger football, Colin Sheffield. Alongside me, as usual, head coach Perry Thomas. Coach Thomas, you come back, you're 2-0 on the bus. What does that bus ride home feel like?
Well, it's a lot better than riding home an 0-2, that's for sure. It's exciting. You guys handled it well, though. I was really pleased with them. When you go through the years that we've gone through the last few years, it's easy to get 2-0 and just get big-headed and celebrate and go crazy. But I think they were really disappointed in the way we finished the game in the second half. Certainly we scored and did some good things, but second half we didn't feel like we had the energy we need to have. So they were focused, but it's still a great feeling. Coaches, we come to work on Sundays, and our guys come in on Sunday nights for weights and study hall, and we get on the field and get our lactic acid out and all that stuff. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're 2-0 than sitting there the other way around.
So the Tigers were able to defeat Union College 42-14 on the road, your first true road win and your first road game of the season. Can you talk about maybe some of the difficulties and some of the preparation that goes into your first road game of the season?
So road changes everything. Fortunately, Union's close enough. We didn't have to have hotels. We didn't have to sleep in other beds and so forth. But still, you have to get the food ready. You have to have the buses ready. You have to make sure you have all the supplies ready to go. And also, the players have to make sure they have all their game gear and so forth. Believe it or not, even with college students, there's been times we've got the games and somebody forgets a helmet. And, you have no chance of playing without a helmet. So the preparation, making sure you got the equipment, those things, the food, from our food service people at Pioneer, and then also ordering post-game meals, and then being able to keep your guys focused. You have a 2-hour, 15-minute or so ride to Union. So you have to get your guys, make sure that they are mature enough to handle that drive, make sure they're mature enough to handle that focus, and when they come off that bus, they're ready to get into game mode and go. So you can't be just horsing around on the bus. You can't be just music jamming, going crazy, and having a party or anything. You have to be focused, and that takes a while. You have to have some mature guys on the team to help with that, and you have to have some leadership for guys to be able to handle that and to understand that. I thought our guys handled it well, though. I thought that they responded well to all the changes that an away game brings, and I thought we came out ready to play.
And I think the Tigers did come out ready to play. Trey Bass starts the game off within the first minute, a 65-yard touchdown run, another bang to start your game.
Right, and that's unique. It doesn't happen often, but 2 weeks in a row we have big starts. The challenge is going to be when we have to grind it and go 4 quarters to see how our team really responds. But exciting way to start the game. The first run we have, they kind of stuff us there for a 1 or 2 yard gain, and then boom, we break it right up the gut with offensive line did a great job blocking, receivers downfield blocking, and then certainly Trey did the rest. And that's a way to get started. So when you're playing up against a team like us, over the last couple of years, a team like Union or St. Andrews, teams that haven't won as much as you won in the past, you want to take their hearts away early, so to speak. You want to bang them early and get something going. Certainly we've had it to us, and that's what they're thinking too. They're thinking, look, we get a stop right here, we stuff them, then we come out and we score, and then maybe Campbellsville starts dropping their head a little bit and wondering, have they changed, or are they really the team they were last year? And that's what we wanted to do against those guys, and our guys responded and did a great job with it.
So we'll take a quick look at some of the stats from the game, a 42-14 win. Josh Meglis played a big role in that. 13 for 21, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trey Bass almost with a 200-yard game, 2 touchdowns. And Mark Pruitt was your MSC and NCCAA player or defensive player of the week with 5 tackles, 2 interceptions, a pass broken up. Your defense was all over the field. You can't expect – Doncha Knox had 2 interceptions as well. 3 or 4 fumbles that were forced. You can't ask for a better defense. They were all over this Bulldog team.
Well, that's one of the things we've hung our hat on now for 15 years that we've been here. And Coach Burnett and those guys taking over the defense haven't changed that philosophy of swarming the ball, flying to the football, and making things happen. I think we had 7 takeaways in that game. And you know, you want to go in and create at least 3, and we created 7, 4 interceptions, 3 fumbles, and some of those were just hustle plays. You know, Kel Hagan gets a big hit on a screen that they get 7 or 8 yards on, and he hustles from his defensive line position and forces a fumble. And that's just swarming the football. It's just getting 11 hats to the football. Mark did a great job of stepping up, making some picks and having some tackles. Josh Meglis, once again, had a steady game for us. You know, the big key for me for quarterbacks isn't the stats, it's the controlling of the game. Being a game manager, and Josh has done a great job of that. Threw a couple of balls that should have been touchdowns that were dropped. And so his stats may have been really up there. And then, of course, Trey Bass and Archelish ran the ball super for us. But really pleased with our overall game. Certain instances I'm not pleased with, but the overall game, you know, our guys going in, finding a way to win. And very proud of the defense for stepping up when they needed to a couple of times and getting stops to give our offense another opportunity to get on the field and take charge.
And there were those times where you talked about that you weren't so happy with them. I could only probably assume that that's the 4 or 5 fumbles that the team had. 4, I think, were lost in that. How do you go about fixing that this week?
Well, a lot of that is mental, you know, because you look, once you fumble once, sometimes you start pressing too much and you fumble again. And then some of it is technique, so we have to have better ball security. But we had 4 turnovers, and we also had 13 penalties. Now, with that said, Alabama, top team in the country, had 15 penalties. So maybe that's the thing to do to win right now. But, you know, we had 13 penalties, and those penalties advanced drives for them and stop drives for us. You know, so those are things that we have to work on, and part of that is mental and part of it is fundamental. But I promise you we'll go to work on that today, and the guys understand that. And we have some reminders to kind of help educate them on those things.
So you said that sometimes, most of the time, your biggest improvement comes from game 1 to game 2.
Right.
What improvements did you see your team make?
Well, I thought we were crisper when we executed, you know, when we tried to run certain runs on offense or pass plays and so forth. I thought our protection was better. I thought our receiver routes were better and our decision-making was better. Defensively, I thought our fits were better and our tackling continued to improve. And even in the kicking game, even though we had a couple of fumbles, you know, we was able to cover and take away some things that we didn't feel like we did in the first game. With that said, we're a young team still on paper, and we still have a lot of improvement to make. So we got to continue to make that improvement because everybody we play is going to get better week to week, you know. So, you know, our level of competition from St. Andrews to Union had to go up, and our competition level now from Union to Thomas More would be higher. So we got to make that, you know, improvement also.
Well, Coach, we'll give you a quick break and we'll step away, and we will come back with our defensive backs coach and defensive coordinator, Derek Burnett, when we come back on The Perry Thomas Show.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show. I had the defensive backs and defensive coordinator, Coach Derek Burnett. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. So you came in 2020,
Right.
correct? So this is your third season. You were the defensive backs coach. You were a heck of a defensive back yourself from what I saw.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, a little humbleness. I'm not against it. I'm for you. So the Tigers' defense has been on fire this year. Already 2 straight, defensive players of the week for NCCAA. MSC won and Mark Pruitt. What has your take been coaching these guys?
Really just trying to, install what we want our identity to be. We want to make sure that we get, 10 hats to the ball, minimum 10 hats, and just make sure that everybody on defense is trustworthy. That's one of the biggest things. We always trying to get our 1%, but really just be trustworthy. And for us, trustworthy is knowing my assignment, whether I'm in the game or if I'm on the sideline and my job is to just cheer and give a run when I know it's a run, or screen pass when I know it's pass, right? Other ones just, flying to the ball. Everybody on the field got to believe that they can get that stat, and that's being trustworthy for us. And it also just carries in the weight room, it carries in the classroom, and just really just holding them accountable. That's the biggest thing as far as, the input, and as far as, the direction and what we're going as far as our identity.
So you come in as the defensive backs coach. This year you take over as defensive coordinator. You take over as head coach. Perry Thomas kind of steps fully into that head coach role. So you take over as DC. What is that transition like for you? What has that been like?
To be honest, it's been easy, and I think it's been easy because of Coach Thomas. I think that easy to work for. He's also one of those guys, who lets you learn, make your mistakes. His door is always open. So, constant communication, when I'm trying different things, that guy that's right there to give you wisdom on, you could do it that way, but understand that this may happen, and you just got to be able to fix it when it do. So from that standpoint, it's been easy. I've been in situations where it could be pressure, and the pressure is really just because of who you work for, more than just the X's and O's of it, because we all are in position where we know football. So I think from that standpoint, it's been easy. It's been easy because of him, because of who I'm working for, because of who I can lean on, because of, Robbie Gribbs, Coach Thomas' son, Matt Atwood, and Coach Gardner, the guys that are working with me, we just work well together. So because of that, it's really just been a group effort, and it's pretty much been easy. It's just really been more of, what identity we want, and let's run with it.
So what does your daily schedule look like? Take us a day through
a daily schedule.
Defensive coordinator Derek Burnett.
Get in the office pretty early, and from there really just, breaking down film, trying to figure out, how to put our best players in position, try to figure out, what's the weaknesses on the other team, trying to figure out what are our weaknesses and how we fix them, stand on top of our fundamentals, and basically just watch as much film as possible to get that documented, and then meet and pretty much go over that with the staff and put together a practice schedule that's going to help us for that particular day. And then, meet with our guys and try to make sure that, whatever plan that we're trying to implement on the field that day, that they get a visual before they step on the field to do it. And it really just continue to go in that cycle every day. Every day it just basically stays in that cycle.
So what are some of the weaknesses that you've seen from this Tigers defense? Because they've been statistically very good in the first 2 games. What are the weaknesses you think you could shore up?
I think it never, fundamentals is something that just constantly, it'll never be great, right? Tackling will never be great. You practice tackling every day. There isn't a perfect tackle on film, and nobody's going to complain if it's not perfect, right? So I think things like tackling, has to continue to get better. You know, you want run fits and reaction time to continue to get cleaned up, and you always want more turnovers. So I think we had like 6 or 7. You want more. You know, if when teams score, you look at situational. You know, as a coach, you break it down as situational football, and when you look at it as situational football, you like, well, you know, you probably shouldn't have gave up no touchdowns. So you know, you try to harp on those things just to make sure that you're constantly climbing. So I think for us, it's just fundamentals and just growing as winners. You know, reality is we're young. You know, we're young as, you know, we're young because the roster say we're young, and then we're young to winning because this group hasn't won. You know, this group wasn't a part of those teams that won games and won rings. So I think just getting better at success within the moment, you know, whether it's a series, whether it's up 28, whether it's closing out a fourth quarter, closing out a half, just getting better in those moments.
So a big matchup versus Thomas More, the first big, I guess, big test of this Tiger team and from this Tiger defense. What is your game plan, do you think, moving into this game?
I mean, our game plan pretty much ain't changing in the sense of what we do. We like to touch quarterbacks. So, you know, we're going to touch quarterbacks. Like, ain't nobody stopping us from doing that. So for us, we're going to figure out how can we touch the quarterback without sacrificing, you know, different things on the back end or different things up front. And then we work around that. I don't think it matters who we play. Our brand is our brand, you know, fly around, touch the quarterback, get the ball back. You know.
So who have you seen early that you lost a lot of people from this past season? You know, people like Kobe Reese, you know, some grad transfers, people like that. Who do you think is maybe best stepped into those roles to be kind of your defensive leader?
I actually got a few. I think just one in particular on the back end, a couple on the back end, but one in particular would be Diego Brumfield. I think last year he was a freshman, so he was under like the Malcolm Walkers and the Kobe Reese. I think this year, like his maturity level is just is at a high level in the sense of what he does for that room. You know, so things like, you know, them meeting, you know, when I'm not around, and I can give him stuff and he can go through it because, you know, they take it easier from him in certain instances. So I think he does a great job. I think Mark Pruitt, as a grad transfer coming in, does a great job of just, you know, being a mature voice for those guys. I think guys like Grover, Russell, who was here last year but didn't get to finish the season, I think just them seeing him just be a worker. He's not a vocal person, but just seeing him be a worker means a lot to the whole unit because it makes them just work when it's time to work. And I think guys like Abood, I can't pronounce his last name, but Abood, I think, which is our starting middle linebacker, he does a great job of just being the brain for the whole defense. So I think we got guys at pretty much every position that is an anchor in some way, whether it's on the field, whether it's vocal, whether it's just being a student-athlete example, somebody that, you know, any program on the school will use as a face, you know, whether it's, you know, it's they major, whatever. We got those type character guys and different groups, whether it's D-line, the linebacker position, or on the back end, and that's, you know, that's the difference. So a lot of them, even though we lost a lot, we gained a lot through that growth process.
Well, thank you, Coach Burnett, for stopping by. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with Coach Perry Thomas to talk about the upcoming matchup with the Thomas More Saints, so don't go anywhere.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. As veterans, we can tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. But you've never been interested in easy. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show. I'm Colin Sheffield. Alongside me, head coach Perry Thomas. I'd like to thank you for coming on. Again, we're going to put a quick bow on this Union game. Union able to score, or you were able to beat Union, I guess I should say, 42-14. Right. Defense played tremendously. Your offense was all over the field. We'll take a quick look at some of the highlights of the game. You get a sight into it. Of course, they were on the road, so we come to you through 88.7 The Tiger and streaming on radio, but Trey Bass, once again, opening up the game with a bang. Yeah. You know, your backs just really couldn't seem to be taken down. The yards after contact is huge.
Well, they're two of the strongest guys on the team. I mean, and that's by any position. Archellis and Trey and CA also. That's a great job right there of Cale Hagan hustling out to force a fumble. And, you know, once you can run the ball, then it sets up these bootleg-type plays right here where we can get Zach and Luke and those guys coming across the middle for big plays.
That catch right there from Luke Shepperson had my partner, Khalil Baker, out of his shoes in the press box. I know your focus was on the field, but up there, I think he jumped about as high as Shepperson did.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great catch, and, I mean, it was a big score late in the series. And you see Mark Pruitt come out with a pick, and then the freshman Dante Knox come out with a pick, and those guys play really well back there. And, you know, Tim Pope, he's a freshman wide receiver. You know, he might need to play linebacker after that tackle right there. He was actually a really good outside linebacker in high school. And, you know, right there just swarming, people flying around, causing a fumble, Hakeem scooping it up. You know, and you can say our defense really gets after you. You know, 2 weeks in a row, we've had Defensive Player of the Years for the NCCAA, and now this week the Mid-South Conference. So, you know, they really get after you.
And we had our impact player of the game as well. We chose Trey Bass. Almost a 200-yard game, 2 touchdowns. There's not much more that you could say for a running back. I don't know that you could hope for much more success than he gave you.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. You know, he just needs to hold on to the ball like all of them. But other than that, you know, that offensive line gets a big part of that credit. But he did a great job of slipping in there and almost getting 200 yards. And, you know, Trey and Archellis and C.A. Bass, those guys are just tremendous backs. They have great vision, they have good speed and quickness, and they're surprisingly strong when people look at them. You know, you look at their stature. Now, Trey, you know, he's built like a house, but they're shorter guys, and people would think they wouldn't be as strong, but you put them in the weight room, put them in the squat rack and so forth, and let me tell you something, they compete in there. They compete and get after you, and that's what you got to have for a football program.
So we'll look ahead now to this Saturday. The Tigers face their first true tough matchup, I think, of the season going against Thomas More. Yeah. Thomas More, that kickoff set for 7 o'clock, that one at Finley Stadium. So you get your home crowd versus a big team in Thomas More. Thomas More scored 73 points last year. They've beaten you every year since 2019. This is their last year in the conference. It'd be nice to send them out with a loss.
Yeah, and we need to get a win. You go back 2019, they beat us 31-28. You know, we shut them out in the second half, and they kick a field goal, beat us 31-28. The next year, we go up there in a game that we were leading the game, and then we have, I think, 3 picks to go back for touchdowns and lose the game by maybe 14 or so. And then, of course, last year we just couldn't stop anybody in the running game, and they just laid it on us. You know, I mean, they just popped them points on us. So, you know, we need to go out and get a win. This is a team coming into the season that I thought would be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the division, and they've gotten off to a up and down start. Lost to a FCS team in Duquesne last weekend, but then they lost to Bluefield College, an NAIA team, but they beat Kentucky Christian, another NAIA team. So they're a solid football team, capable of scoring points. I think in the NAIA competitions they've scored 35 and 31 points. Now they've given up some points also. So that's where we have to, you know, we have to go in defensively and figure out a way to bring that scoring average for them down. You know, maybe to 2 touchdowns, 3 at the most. And then offensively, we have to continue to do what Bluefield and KCU did, and that's to put on 30-plus points against them. And I think we're capable of that, but it's going to be tough. They're a very solid football team, talent-wise and so forth. They match up well with us, if not better. So we got to go out and be prepared to play a game against a team that's kicked our butt the last 3 years.
Now that you've had the time to go back and look at the film, is there anything that you're seeing that stands out to you that bodes well for you, or, you know, might bode not so well for you?
Well, I mean, football oftentimes, like any sport, is a game of matchups. So some of that stuff on paper, on film, even, it's a struggle to match. So we're going to have to just wait and see when the game starts. I think that they're a solid team. But look, let's not shortchange us either, though. You know what I mean? We are a solid football team also. Our guys play extremely hard physically. And this is our focus. Right now, we're still focusing on us. So our guys play extremely hard physically. They're a contact team. They fly around. They're going to hit you. They're going to get to the ball. They're going to give you that great effort. And I think you can see that in the game. Where we got to get better is the mental toughness. Most of the time we think about mental toughness as competing, but that's not the case for us. The mental toughness for us is the mistakes. You know, the penalties, the fumbles, those type of things, the missed assignments that the lay person wouldn't see, okay? Those are the things that we got to get better at. So right now we're focusing more than Thomas More. We're focusing on Campbellsville University, getting our mental toughness up to par with our physical toughness. And at that point, I think we can be a very good football team. We know we got a challenge this week in Thomas More. We know they're going to be physical, they're going to be strong, they're going to be athletic, and they're going to have a great deal of confidence just because they've beaten us lately. So, you know, we know they're going to be ready to go, but we'll be ready to go also.
In that matchup versus Duquesne, you saw 2 different quarterbacks being used, Vaden and Espinosa. Is this a 2-quarterback system like we saw against Union, or?
Not as much. You know, Union was because their starter, number 1, you know, is hurt. So they brought him in a little bit. But, you know, with them, Espinosa, I think, will play mostly against us, but they will use the other one. You know, they will use the other one. But Espinosa, I think, is their starter, and I think is who we'll see most of the game.
So the Tigers go on the road. They'll they do not go on the road. They are here. It's a very easy schedule to remember. I should have been able to remember that. 10 straight weeks, and you go home, away, home, away, home, away. So very easy to remember. The Tigers will come to Finley Stadium, face off against the Saints Thomas More. You have your home crowd. That energy will be brought for sure. Yes. The energy's back on this campus, and that's something that we couldn't really say before about Tiger football.
Well, it's been a few years. You know, we've been down in dumps a little bit, but our fans are still with us. But right now, they got something to get excited about, and we know we'll have a packed house Saturday night. And to be honest with you, I'm an old high school coach. It's nothing like night games. You know, night games just bring a different atmosphere. So we're excited about that, and excited about getting home back in front of the home crowd.
I'd like to thank you, Coach Thomas, and also like to thank Coach Burnett for coming in and talking with us. The Tigers take on the Saints of Thomas More, 7 o'clock at Finley Stadium. I'm Colin Sheffield. Thanks for joining the Perry Thomas Show.